Hey you guys, Dakota Walker here, and I am really excited to be here with you in this beautiful setting. You can't exactly see it because it's kind of washed out behind me, but I'm in La Jolla, California, near San Diego, and there's just this drop-dead gorgeous ocean that goes on forever out here. So I wanted to make this three-part series, not meditation, but workshop on the introduction to the medicine wheel, really the blueprint of the medicine wheel, and how this ancient tool can be used as a modern day container for living our lives in a full, authentic and truthful and robust way. And so let me give you first the layout of what we're going to do. So in the first video today, what I want to talk to you a little bit about is maybe a little bit of the history of the medicine wheel, where it kind of originated from. And then we'll go into the directions, and I'll share with you some of the energies of each of the directions and the soul archetype that's affiliated with each of those directions. And then in the second video, we're going to talk about what happens when we have excess energy or deficient energy or balanced energy in any one of those directions. And then in the third video, we're going to bring it all together, and how does that look when we're living kind of more authentically, and how can we be more authentic in our everyday actions and reactions. So first things first, for those of you who are new to me, I'm Dakota Walker, and I have been teaching spiritual studies for the last 30 years, and specifically I've been teaching the medicine wheel for the last 15 years. Actually, it might be a little bit longer than that now. And I really kind of got my start in all of this because I really wanted to live a full-on life. I didn't want to be just haphazard in my life. I didn't want to live in a way that wasn't authentic or wasn't to my fullest potential. And so all of my life I have been looking for ways to kind of weave in my spiritual practices with everything that I do, the work that I do, the relationships that I have, the physical environment that I find myself in, and to really, make my spiritual path kind of that more meaningful way to express myself. And so as a consequence, I've had lots of great teachers in my life. I've worked with George Pooley, who was one of the last living medicine men for the Hopi Nation. I've worked with various shamans in Ireland and in Southwest America. And really, though, some of my greatest teachers are my clients and my students who I've been working with for a number of years. And I feel very fortunate to be in this place right now where I am in my life, that I can share this knowledge with people like you, and to see what that knowledge does in your life. How does it translate in your life when you've got access to this information? And so I am always kind of in that continual learning mode. I have a very, very strong belief that as long as I'm living and breathing, there's room for me to grow. There's room for me to continue onward, and to never really take that back seat and say I am the teacher, but I am always the student. And what I hope to do is facilitate a space where what I have learned and what I am learning can be passed on to you. So I try to surround myself with as many opportunities for soul growth and for learning as possible, whether it's taking workshops or reading books or studying with different teachers, or really kind of being in that curious mode in my own life. And right now, as I am filming these, I am actually traveling this year-long journey around the United States to kind of show how to live a more authentic life, and how the medicine wheel can kind of be translated from the different places that I land. And so that kind of has been my next container of this, is showing in real life example how that looks, how all of this looks when you're really keyed into this ancient tool. So the history of the medicine wheel, it goes back thousands and thousands and thousands of years, where the circle or the medicine wheel has been used by indigenous cultures to either be for ritual or ceremony or healing. It was also a way for them to kind of view how things that were coming and the different energies, and how the energies changed and shifted with the seasons. And so for all practical senses, in ancient times, the medicine wheel was maybe a little bit more practical, in the sense that, would work with the east energy, which was planting those seeds. And then in the summer, the east would be in the spring. In the south, it would be the summer months, and that's when you nurture those seeds and really grow your crops. And in the west, you would actually start to harvest those seeds, and you'd have your bounty. And then in the north direction, which is in the winter time, is when everything kind of goes dormant, and you would start that cycle all over again. But before you would start that cycle, you would plan for your next year's crops. They also use the medicine wheel for a lot of healing, a lot of ceremony, a lot of ritual, just kind of invoking all those different energies throughout that wheel and the seasons. And we'll go through all 4 directions here in just a moment, but in the Celtic world, you have like Stonehenge and Lahinch and all these different stone circles that you would find in Ireland and Scotland and Wales and England. And the Celtic would also use their stone circles, which is equivalent to the medicine wheel, and it would be based on the equinoxes and the solstices, and they would also do ritual and ceremony within those circles. And then you've got in North America, one of the, not one of the only, but the oldest medicine wheel is Big Horn, which is in Wyoming. And ironically, the Native Americans in North America were some of the fewest tribes that actually used the medicine wheel or the circle, but they were more prominent up in Canada, and there's like 800 or so medicine wheels that are still in existence in Canada. And so these circles, or these sacred circles, or these the sacred hoop, or the medicine wheel, has been around for a very, very long time. And they traditionally have been called different things by different indigenous cultures. The circle itself is a very symbolic symbol. It is that continual movement. It is that there's no hard edges. It's that flow, that constant, that eternal, the infinity. It is the one symbol that really kind of makes everything equal. So there's not a division. There's not the separation between things. And many of these indigenous cultures viewed humanity and animals and spirit and earth as one kind of collective whole. And really only in modern culture have we kind of started to separate that out and put labels on people, or put hierarchies on, I'm better than animals, or, tread on the earth lightly, all these different things that we kind of see this hierarchy that man has put themselves up here, and then there's maybe animals, and then there's earth, and so there's this differential system going on. So now let's talk about the directions. In the traditional, and I may actually have to move my video just a little bit. I see I am getting shaded. Now I've got too much sun. Here, we'll do this. There we go. How's that? Better? Beautiful trees. So in the medicine wheel, there are traditionally 7 directions. I work with 5 of I work with all of them, but when we do the mentorship, we're working specifically with 4 directions. But so you've got the 4 cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, and then you've got that center of the medicine wheel, and then you've got Father Sky, and you have Mother Earth, and those are the 7 directions. And they all work in conjunction with one another. So Mother Earth is that grounding force that holds us close and safe and gives us that anchor point so that we can travel now up to Father Sky and do the shamanic journey, work with the spirit world, work in the spirit realm, so that we can bring that down, and we're bringing Mother Earth up. And so you got as above, so below. And then contained within that is this beautiful system called the medicine wheel. When we start off in the east direction, I've already told you that it's the springtime, and that's where we kind of plant our seeds. And the really great thing about the medicine wheel is that you can look at it in the context of a year. So you've got the 4 seasons. You can look at it in the context of a day. So you've got morning, afternoon, evening, and nighttime. You can look at it in terms of your life. And so east would be from ages like pre-birth to about 17, 18, 19. And then you've got your early adulthood in that south direction. And then you've got your middle of life up until about retirement, what we would call retirement, in that west direction. And then north direction is your elder years and a little bit beyond those years that you're here on earth. And so that's how you would look at it in the context of your life. You can also look at it in the context of a month. You could have 1 week is east, next week is south, next week is west, and the next week is north. And so you might be starting to see that there's a lot of ways that you can use the medicine wheel and this great container as a way to kind of frame out what you are doing, what you need to do, or if you have goals or a way of life that you're trying to obtain, and also when to work with these really amazing and robust energies. So in the east direction, it's the birth, it's that young childhood time. So think about those things when you were a kid, what you wanted to do when you grew up, those ideas and those dreams, like I want to be an astronaut or a fireman or an architect or a doctor or whatever myriad of things that you wanted to be as a child. In that childlike curiosity, we didn't know any limitations. Everything was free and open and everything was obtainable. We didn't really have that understanding that we couldn't necessarily not do something. We just had the assumption that we could. And so we use that east energy, that type of east energy, to really build out that east framework where we work on our goals, our dreams, our visions, our ideas, and we kind of put that curiosity behind those and bring it to a place where we can start seeing those possibilities. We can start envisioning what that might look like in our life if we got it translated. And I'll tell you where it translates a little bit later. But so in the East, we're working with that birthing energy. We're working with that communication, being able to actually verbalize and communicate and give rise to our authentic and truthful voice. And when we can speak in our truth and when we can speak from that authentic place, then we really begin to open up that space for things to shift and happen in our life. Because the more that we are living into that full potential and we kind of shred some of those layers and that those untruths away from us, then we have that chance or that opportunity to come from a more raw place. And in that more raw place, we're kind of a blank slate, and we allow for the messages and the transformations to begin happening. So also in the East direction, we work a lot with resonance and vibration and sound and anything that's coming from that throat chakra. So the throat chakra is really what we're working with in that East, and whether that's through your life prayer or your learning sacred communication with your partner or with your friends or with your family, or you're using vibration, sound. I've got a bird right above me who's cooing. If you're using that vibration for healing or for transformation, or if you're just being able to speak your boundaries or speak your truth in the way that it makes you live a more authentic life. And we also use the voice as an expression to deepen our spiritual path, whether that's through meditation or through prayer or through chanting. There's a number of ways that we use that. The visionary is the soul archetype for the East direction. And in the East, we also work with the mental body. So it's very driven towards the career house. When I talk about sacred purpose, I talk about sacred purpose being 4 different components. And only when you have all 4 components kind of at play and balance is when you're actually really living your sacred purpose. So in the East, it's your job. What do you do for a living? Or what is your contribution to the world? So for some people who don't actually work a 9-to-5 job, their contribution may be that they're a stay-at-home mother or a stay-at-home father, or they're retired, so maybe their contribution comes through charity work. So in the East, your sacred purpose is how are you affecting the world through what you do and how you contribute. And when you're living in that authentic place, you're not living somebody else's dream. you're not in a job because you have a fear of not being able to pay your bills. You're not in a job that is not aligned with your spirit because that just wouldn't feel right. So as we balance out that east direction and you start working with your authenticity and learning what it is that you really want to be when you grow up, then you start using the other directions to kind of fill that in and to support that endeavor. In the east, we also work with our self-esteem. So often, and this kind of gets when we're kids, a lot of times we are taught a couple of different things. Most kids, and one is that you're not as important as everybody else, and so we learn to take a back seat. And because of that, our boundaries become a little looser, and we don't really know how to have boundaries, and so we put everybody else on the front burner because we've been taught that they are more important than we are. And so your self-esteem kind of takes a hit from that. And it's very easy for people to say what we are not good at, or you're doing this wrong, or you're doing this bad, or you are, there's a myriad of things that we all hear as kids growing up that kind of support the notion that we're just not good enough. Very few people that I meet who come into this reality of working with your soul come in it with having had that full support growing up where you felt very treasured and important and that you mattered. That, unfortunately, is not the norm. So our self-esteem is something that we work on in the East, and that's building that confidence, building the confidence in the voice and in your actions, and being able to see how you fit into the world around you and how that is an important role for everybody to be able to witness coming from you. So again, it's the visionary soul archetype, and I'll explain the soul archetypes here in just a moment, but in the visionary, if that is your soul archetype, then what your strength is that you have that ability to create the job, the career. You really analyze a lot of things. You come at it from a mental body most often. A lot of times you're workaholics. And I'm going to share with you actually in the next video kind of what that looks like in the excess and deficient side when you have that going on in your soul archetype. But so anyway, visionary soul archetype is the east direction. Also in the east, you plant your seeds. So here's one thing I heard from Deepak Chopra in one of his speeches a long time ago. He said, if you want to know what seeds you were planting 10 years ago, look at your body now. And that is so true, because when we get over into the west direction, which I'll explain here in a minute, is whatever you're planting here in the east is what you are going to nurture in the south and is what you're going to harvest in the west. So now let's move down to the south. And the south is the Sacred Heart Warrior, and the soul archetype. In the south, we get into the emotional body. It's really, really super juicy. And there's a lot of, we work with creativity, we work with intuition, relationships, and intimacy, sexuality. You just think of like vibrancy, and you got that warmth of the summer sun hitting you, so it's kind of warming things up. And now you're really nurturing. So if we're thinking in the metaphor of the garden, this is when you're watering and weeding the garden. And you're tending to it in a way, like you wouldn't just go in and stomp all over your garden. You would go in tenderly, and you would, pull out the weeds, you would water it, you would take care of the plants, and, well, at least I hope you would. If you want to have like a robust garden, you would. And when you're in that south direction, because there's so much flavor, it tends to get really watery. So we got the water element down there, a lot of emotion. And so when we're working in the south, we're working on emotional intelligence. And what that actually means is that your emotions are not getting lumped into, I'm afraid of this, I love this. You have more of a full spectrum. You can actually vocalize, using that east direction again, you can vocalize what emotion you're actually feeling. So you may be feeling sad. or you might be feeling remorseful, or you might be feeling joy, or you might be feeling connectedness, or you might be feeling sorrow. And so there's like 100 emotions. There's a range of emotions that we actually can feel. But what happens is when we don't have an emotional intelligence is that we go to our knee-jerk reaction emotions, where everything becomes, I'm really mad, I'm really hurt, I'm really scared, I love you, I feel happy. And we limit ourselves to 6 or 7 go-tos that end up becoming our vocabulary of how we feel. And because of that, we don't actually go through the emotion. And a lot of times, and I find this a lot with spiritual peeps, is they don't want to go through the emotion, they want to go around the emotion. And that's called light polarization, which comes from the north direction. We'll talk about that in the next video. But so in the south, because the emotional body is at such play, you want to be able to go through the emotions and to feel everything completely, like really feel it in your bones. If you're grieving, you really feel it deep in your soul. Because when you allow yourself to feel the emotion, then you are able to come out the other side of it with these tremendous gifts that allow you to see and grow and nurture that soul in a way that you don't get if you just go around the emotion, or you skim it, or you call it something different than what it really is. When my dog died years ago, like 10, 11 years ago, he died. It was the most traumatic grief that I had ever felt in my life. I had lost people, but nothing had prepared me for the amount of pain that I would feel when I lost Harris. And I was a blubbering idiot. I was sobbing. I was on the floor crying and writhing in pain. And I leaned into all the directions to be able to express that grief in different ways. I made a video of our life together. That was pulling in that east direction and kind of creating something that was more from the mental body. I cried out to my guides and to God, why? And I worked with His Spirit, and that was pulling in that north direction. And then for the east, or for the west, I just really allowed myself to be a blubbering idiot. I was, just, my eyes were swollen, I was crying, I cocooned myself into my house and didn't leave for a week. And that was that west energy, just allowing myself to be in that sacred cocoon of my home and to really allow my physical body to release that pain. And so when you have that emotional intelligence, you understand the importance of having a full spectrum emotional outlet. I guess that would be what you would call it. Also in the South, we work so much with relationships because we are in relationship with everything around us, not just people, and not just people who we're close to. But I'm in relationship right now with the earth that I'm standing on. I'm in relationship with the ocean and the sun and the people who are walking past me. I'm in an indirect relationship with them. I'm in relationship with my family, with my friends, with those who are closest to me. And there's different ways to be in relationship. I will be in relationship very soon with a waiter or server at the restaurant that I'm going to go eat at. And when we approach these relationships, no matter what they are, with a certain sacredness and a balanced south energy, then those relationships become seeds and opportunities for tremendous soul growth, but also for a mutual growing of that soul. So for me, let's just use the example of the server at the restaurant. What I try to do when I and this has been really fun with me on this journey by myself, is that I'm always in relationship with strangers. And I approach any contact that I have with people as an opportunity to be curious, an opportunity for a message to come through, an opportunity for me to give back something to humanity. So those are kind of like the three things that I go into a relationship with. So I may go to dinner tonight, and this actually happened last night. We had a server who was wonderful, but when I went in with that curiosity, I learned that he also was a traveler, and he had spent the last 2 years living in Czech Republic, and he comes back to America to make money and then goes back to traveling. And so instantly we had this little connection about we're both traveling, and we're both got that curiosity about the world. And so there's that link that brings us together. I could have ignored him. I could have said he's just here to serve me, or he's just here to take my order or bring me my food. And that would have really been a disservice to both of us, because he was seeing, my gift to him was that he was seeing that it's possible to travel and work. You know, that's what I'm doing. I would not be able to do this if I could not work from the road. So that plants a seed for him that, I love to travel. Maybe I need to revisit my sacred purpose in the east direction and find a job that will allow me to work from the road. So I don't know if that was a seed that will ever get nurtured for him, but that was the seed I planted for him. And for him, he planted within me just, I'm not alone. There are other people who are out there traveling who feel just like I do. You know, these moments of high and these moments of low. And so when you go into knowing that you have these kind of three veins of contact with whoever you are potentially in a relationship with, it gives that space for there to be the sacredness where there's an appreciation. Now, not every relationship is going to be rosy and wonderful and beautiful and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes we're really challenged by the relationships, because relationships elicit the strongest emotions within us. And because of that, we have relationships that are very tumultuous, and we have relationships that are really life-altering and deeply connected. Both teach you very, very profound things, but in a very, very different way. And so we take all of this and we bring it into the South, and we start learning how to really be more intelligent about our emotions, how to create those sacred relationships within us or for us or around us, how to be in a relationship with everything around us, using your intuition, because so often we second guess that initial gut reaction. And we also lean into empathy, you know, using empathy as a tool, and also learning how to protect ourselves from that. And that actually comes from the other directions, but empathy is a strong suit of the South direction. I did tell you Sacred Heart Warrior, right? Okay, that's the soul archetype for the South direction. So now let's shift over into the West. And the West is the alchemist soul archetype. And so we think seasonally we're coming to the West, and that's where it's fall, autumn, and we begin harvesting the crops that we have grown in the South or nurtured in the South, that we have planted in the East, nurtured in the South. Now we're going to harvest these crops. And so we look at our external world, and it's the physical body is the body that we're working with. And what you have externally is a reflection of what you have going on internally. So if you're living in complete chaos, in a cluttered house, in a job that you don't like, in a relationship that is abusive or maybe non-emotional or non-connected, if you are if you have failing health, if you have health issues, if you have overweight problems, whatever it might be, is all a result of what is happening internally or what has been happening internally for you. And so again, we start looking at those seeds. What seeds did you plant in the East direction? What did you decide that you were going to birth in your life and begin bringing into your life and nurturing? You know, we've always heard that seed of thought that I'm not good enough. I don't have enough money. I don't have this. I don't have that. And then we begin reinforcing that thought in the South, and then as a result, we have zero money in our bank account, or we feel worthless, so we eat, or we drink, or whatever our vice might be. So the West is all about what we are harvesting in our external world. And it is also about creating that sacred space, creating a safe space. It's about creating boundaries. And that's, you know, when I was talking about the empathy and even the relationships and all of those kind of things that we work on in the other directions, they take being able to have boundaries and healthy boundaries, not just energetically, but being able to say, I don't feel okay with this. I am not comfortable with this. I need to sit, or, so how many of you out there say yes when really inside you want to say no? Your friends are asking you, hey, let's go out to dinner on Thursday night. I need to really talk to you, and I need your time. And that, I don't know, you're going to be tired. You've worked all day, you got kids at home, you got your own dramas you're going on with. And there's that boundary that maybe you need to vocalize, each direction vocalize, and say, you know what, I really can't do this on Thursday. Or I can give you an hour on Thursday. But you're creating these boundaries, and when we create boundaries, we're teaching people how to respect us, how to treat us. And if our boundaries are all over the place, then people will take as much as you're going to give. And if you keep giving, they're going to keep taking and taking and taking until you finally feel so depleted that there's nothing left. And I already guarantee you that you have already felt that you have been in that place where you have given everything you have to everybody else, and here you are sitting on the back burner once again, and probably a little upset because everybody keeps taking, but they're taking because you haven't set that boundary. You haven't maybe said that you are worthy enough of taking care of yourself first. And so in the West, we also work with self-care. The South was self-love. I forgot to mention that. But so boundaries are really huge in the West. Also in the West, we work with forgiveness. And I always say forgiveness comes in layers. You can forgive somebody, but as long as there's an emotion, when you think about that person or that incident that needed to be forgiven, then there's still forgiveness that needs to happen. And it does, it happens in layers. And I have had a couple people in my life who I have forgiven probably 15 times, and I still have one more layer to do, but it's getting there. And it's not a one-up, it's not a one-time thing, oh, I forgive you. It takes work, and it takes reconditioning, and it also takes self-forgiveness, and that's usually the hardest one for most people, is that self-forgiveness piece. You also have this, in the West direction, we work a lot with our ancestors, and what happens is in the latter part of the West direction, the veil gets really thin between the third dimension and the fourth and the fifth dimension. And it's very easy for spirits to go back and forth between the worlds. And so it makes it for a great time to begin working with our ancestors and doing some ancestral healing, things like that. And that kind of amps us up for the north direction. In the West, we're also working with the physical body. And you'll see in the next video that when the West is out of balance, there's two different ways it can look. And I'm in sunny Southern California right now, and I can tell you which one is in excess or deficiency here. And I'll share that with you in the next video, so you'll have to come back and watch that one to get that little snippet of information. I hope none of you live in this area. Okay, so the West direction, we've got the alchemist. It's all about transformation. And we think about the phoenix diving into the ashes, or the thunderbird diving into the ashes and rising out the phoenix. We become born again. So in the East, we had the birth. In the West, we have rebirth. So that's where, if you realize that your external world is not how you want it, then we start to rebirth and transform what that looks like for you, and how we bring that back into sync in your life and with the other directions. And then we go into the north direction. And the north is the soul shaman, soul archetype, and that is the one who really works deeply with the spirit world. And a lot of shamans and spiritual types will end up being soul shamans. And in the north direction, you think about wintertime, and we're kind of forced into that hibernation because it gets cold outside, and so you kind of stay all snuggled up inside, and you're reading your own book, and you're sipping your hot chocolate, and it just gives you a lot of time to just be by yourself. And so in the north direction, it's the spiritual body. And when you go inward, you're taking out the external world around you. And when you do that, you are forced to rely on yourself. You're forced to go inside and find that higher self, forced to go inward to work deeply at that soul level with your guides and with the spirit world around you, and even ancestors and angels, and we work with the Akashic records. And this is the time when we kind of go in and you're either looking back and you're reflecting on what has my life or my day or my year or whatever framework you're using for the medicine wheel. We look back and say, okay, this is what I've learned. This is what I'm taking away. These are the gifts that I've garnered from these. And then we look into and inward into that deeper part of ourselves and say, what do I want to birth next? You know, if you believe in reincarnation, it would be, what am I going to birth in the next life? If you're using the medicine wheel in the context of the day, what am I going to birth tomorrow? Who am I going to be tomorrow? How am I going to show up? If you're looking into the next year, it's the same thing. What am I going to begin manifesting next year? What seeds do I want to plant? And these aren't, you're not working with the seeds of, these are the skill sets that I have, so I'm limited to this job. These are what mom and dad want me to do. This is what my husband or wife expects of me. We're really working more deeply with, what do you want? What do you want in your life? And when you take away this external world and you give yourself room to just think about what it is that you want in that deepest layer of you, when you get to that place, then out comes that authenticity. That comes out that truth. And I will tell you, the north direction is probably the toughest direction for people because we are not used to going that deep inward and seeking our own answers. So often I hear people ask others, what do you think I should do? What would you do? How could I do this? Please tell me, please tell me, please tell me. They go to a psychic, they go to a psychologist, they go to a doctor, they go to their friend. They push outside of themselves looking for that piece of information that tells them what they need to do or what they need to feel or who they are in order to move forward. Whenever you do that, you're discrediting that amazing, powerful soul that is within you. And that amazing, powerful soul that is within you is the only one who can unlock that answer for you. So all the work that I do, everything that I teach, is summed up in that nutshell right there. I am teaching you how to tap into that inner power of you that unlocks yourself and gives you the freedom to navigate this life through your eyes, through your power, for you to show up and be authentic, for you to show up and do your part. We all have a role here. We all have a reason why we have come here. And I really believe that when we are living in that authentic, most powerful part of ourselves, that is what will change the world around you. And so in the North, that's where we really grab onto that information. And we really look into that soulscape and find for yourself. And even if there's, patterns from previous lives that need to be healed, we work a lot with the quantum field actually in the North and the East directions, because quantum physics is really so relevant to the work that I do anyway. And that's kind of what brings it into that, I want to say the modern view, but quantum physics really has been around since the Earth. I mean, it's not something that we just made up. It's just something that we just recently discovered. So anyway, we pull all these directions together. And when we have harmony within this medicine wheel, and we have all four directions in balance, and you'll learn more about that in the next video. When we have all four directions in balance, then what we do is we sit in that center of the medicine wheel where it says Wisdom Keeper. And the Wisdom Keeper is the final soul archetype. And that is the place that we want to be. We want to be able to sit in the center of the medicine wheel and navigate and use the directions at will. To be able to, we'll use the forgiveness as an example. If I'm working towards forgiving somebody, then I need to pull in the east direction for the communication. I need to pull in the empathy and the emotion from the south direction. I need the support of my guides from the north direction. And from the west direction, I need to be able to do it. I need to be able to see that transformation and go through that transformation. And so I'm using all 4 directions simultaneously. And I'm learning how to navigate that. When I'm living in my life, Dakota Walker's life, every experience I have, I can take through the medicine wheel. And I can show somebody how I have arrived at one certain place based on the different directions and how those all kind of came into play. And so that's my goal in teaching others about the medicine wheel, is how do you live in that wisdom keeper space? How do you navigate and use all the directions and dance with the wheel? That's the dancing with the wheel is one of the most beautiful places you can be. And there's different names for it, and I know you've experienced it at different times in your life, but it's where everything just kind of, it's like something locks in and everything is effortless. And that effortless place is so beautiful. So what if I told you that you could live in that place just about 98% of the time? That would be awesome. And I believe that it's absolutely 100% true that you can. I do 98% of the time. And so so we just went through all 5 directions. And in the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what it looks like when each of those soul archetypes are out of balance, whether it is excess energy, deficient energy, and balanced energy. And I will tell you this, that you will have all 3 in every direction, because there are different things that will happen that will elicit either an excess or a deficient or a balanced energy. But I'll give you that whole map in the next video. For right now, what I want you to do, first of all, thank you for sticking with me for 42 minutes so far, and it's getting to be a beautiful sunset. What I want you to do right now is I want you to go take the soul archetype test and find out what soul archetype you are. When you enter in your email address, you're going to get back you'll get sent 5 PDF files, and each file will go through each of the soul archetypes in depth. I encourage you to read all 5 of those PDFs, because remember, what we're trying to do is live from that wisdom keeper point of view. Now what you're going to find is that many of you are going to find that you have a higher percentage in the wisdom keeper space. That is great, and it's not. And I'll tell you why. I don't want you to think, oh, I've got it all together. And you might have it all together. But the wisdom keepers who have a higher percentage, so you'll have one soul archetype that'll be like your dominant. This is how you kind of view the world, through this big lens of visionary or sacred heart warrior, alchemist or soul shaman or wisdom keeper. When you are a wisdom keeper, if you are not balanced in the other 4 directions, then your life feels pretty chaotic. It's like, what am I going to do here? What am I going to do here? What am I? You're all over the place, and it's really hard to figure out what it is, where that container is. It's just like blah everywhere. There's a lot of chaos and a lot of confusion for imbalanced wisdom keepers. And so what you will need to do, what all of us need to do, is to continually balance out the 4 cardinal directions so that we can land in that wisdom keeper space and use that space as a placeholder where we can navigate our life. All of us have imbalanced energy, deficient, excess, and balance. Because in truth, unless you are dead, you are going to have some kind of percentage in all of them, because that's how we learn. We really do learn from the experiences that are a little less than beautiful. So as an example, when I was in Florida, December, I was in Florida in December, and I had some pretty hard experiences in my travels. I went into a really, really deficient south energy, and I really had a deficiency in the north energy at that time, and the west was kind of excess. And when I came out of it, though, I had to have that experience in order for me to be where I am right now. Because what happened was I'd gotten to a campsite and I felt totally alone. I was completely alone. And I'm listening to all the people around me having fun and laughing and all this kind of stuff. And that was the west energy. It was like just so much that reminded me of how alone I was. And then I started to really withdraw and not love myself, and that's all south energy. I felt abandoned by my guides. That's that deficiency in the north energy. And then in the east, I just had this tremendous amount of lack of confidence that I could actually do this journey, this trip. And so all of that combined, that experience actually landed me here in La Jolla, in this beautiful place where I'm playing with sea lions and I'm watching this beautiful sunset and I'm talking to these amazing, beautiful people. And the reason for that is that what I learned was I needed a support system. I needed to shore up that south energy, and so I contacted 5 people who I love and trust to be my support team. And we have a little Facebook group, which is a little bit of east energy. But we have a little Facebook group, and whenever I need anything, they help me find camping spots, they help me find information about areas I'm going to, and they tell me, you know, I love you, Dakota. And they give me that emotional support also. So that's what I learned in that direction, or in that experience, is that I needed that south energy. And then I needed to build into my journeys the practice of really taking care of my spirit life. And so today, as an example, I went down onto the rocks and I just sat there with the sea lions, just watching them play and having a total connected moment with the earth and with the water and with the animals and with the people who were there. And that was bringing in that north direction and seeing my guides, seeing the messages. And then for the west energy, I got really super organized in the vehicle that I'm traveling in. And I made some investments in some really important things for me to be able to stay connected to the outside world and for me to be comfortable when I'm camping. And so that was one way how I took one event that blew all of the directions out and then brought it back in and used all the directions to bring it back into balance and to learn a really beautiful, beautiful message that has landed me here. So, okay. I could ramble on forever on the medicine wheel because I love it so much, but I am going to leave you with all of this to kind of soak in. Go take the soul archetype test. There's a link down below for you to go take that. And then I would love to know down below, what are some of the seeds that you have planted that maybe you have regretted planting? How is your external world reflecting your internal world right now? And if you can make any kind of changes among that, what would that be? So I really look forward to hearing what you have to say down below, and also let me know what your soul archetype is. I would probably venture to guess that if I knew you, I could tell you what your soul archetype is. Everybody has like a way that they present themselves, and I'll be curious if you guys can figure out my soul archetype. So anyway, I'll see you in the next video. It'll be out, so look either in the Facebook group if you are in it. If you're not in the Facebook group, you need to be in it. So get over into the Facebook group. And if you're on the email list, you'll get a link there. If you're not on the email list, you've got to get on the email list. And what else do we have? Those are the 2 ways that I'm going to contact people to let you know where the next video is. It'll also be on YouTube, but you're not going to have as much fun on YouTube. So if you're seeing this on YouTube, come on over to the Facebook group and join in on the conversation, or join us on the website and add your 2 cents there. So that's it for now. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.